Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be giving you a review slash critique of the TV series entitled Hoarders. Well, they've had many versions of it. They've had they've had Hoarding Buried Alive and Hoarders Family Secrets, but Hoarders, the series in general, I want to talk about. And I really do like this show, and the show basically it's a focus on compulsive hoarding, and which compulsive hoarding is connected with. It's about unwillingness to throw away or relinquish a prodigious amount of items, often ones that are superfluous and unnecessary. And it's a behavioral pattern where a person really could persistently acquiring possessions, many that are just they're not necessary. They're just it's just something that could be very excessive in terms of the accumulation of possessions. Now, the thing about this show is that when I say it, I think it's actually very positive and advantageous. Some people may not like it because they think, well, these people on here, they're compulsive hoarders. They got this situation where the home is very disheveled. They got all this clutter around, and they're basically okay. Well, they're getting notoriety and exposure for doing this. Well, what people got to remember too is that what's happening can be somewhat demeaning, and they're willing to put themselves on TV and actually have this footage being shown. And I don't think all of them are necessarily enamored with that. But what this show does is, I think what's positive and beneficial about it is that it gives people that have something like other hoarders, compulsive hoarders, that gives them hope. And they could actually watch the show. I'm not saying they all necessarily have a positive outcome or resolution at the conclusion of the show, but the ones that have positive outcomes especially, they could see this and say, well, you know what? I'm in this predicament. Maybe now I have some hope. I could extricate myself from it. And this is certainly not something that's insignificant or a minor problem. These people, I've seen some of these episodes where you would have all this debris and all these items, these possessions, they would be piled up where it would cover like a doorway where you couldn't even go through. Perhaps that was one of the Buried Alive episodes, more likely than not. But when you see this, it shows that other people are willing to come out and help them and show compassion. Now, not everybody is egocentric, but there are some people that are willing to help out. And what happens is basically you get people that are willing to help these compulsive hoarders, and they go in and through a collaborative effort, perhaps in between like a 48 to 72 hour period, maybe perhaps approximately, they have that time to eliminate the stuff and get the place cleaned up so it's not in a disheveled state. It's not where it makes it where it's habitable. What causes problems too with this show, when I look at this show on Hoarders and what I've researched about it, is that what can happen too is it can make the home uninhabitable. And what happens is I think people often become despondent. They might become lethargic and lackadaisical, and they just kind of become stagnant. They just let all the stuff kind of accumulate, and in the process their homes can deteriorate. They could get corrosion in their homes or mold, for example, and it can make deem the place really essentially uninhabitable. Now, I think a lot of people, like when I see hoarders there, what it's about is a lot of them are cognizant that they do have a problem. You might have some that are going through denial and say, well, no, I don't have any problem. There's nothing abnormal, or there's nothing bizarre, unusual about what I'm doing and accumulating an excessive amount of possessions. This is my business and blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of people that really know about what's going on, and they're cognizant of this. But I think what happens is that need to accumulate possessions, but this exorbitant amount of possessions, it can override maybe that need to actually get the help to get them out of their situation. I think a lot of that is factored into the equation, so to speak. And the thing is, we see, I was doing some research on this, and according to WebMD.com, okay, it's quote 2 to 5% may meet criteria for being hoarders. Now, and there was another website, PsychCentral.com, okay, quote, compulsive hoarding affects approximately 700,000 to 1.4 million people in the U.S. So we're talking about an extravagant amount, to say the absolute least. And when you see, on the show Hoarders, what happens is basically there's an ultimatum presented, I believe, at least in most cases on the show Hoarders, that if you don't get this place habitable after a certain amount of time, okay, you're going to face some kind of ramifications or repercussions, and frequently that could be the result of being removed from your residence. And I think, if I remember correctly, there was at least one episode where they had a family member that was going to either report him or her for the problem to some health board or whatever you're supposed to report it to, whatever agency that is, and really the thing about it is, I guess that's like a form of tough love. It's definitely a little harsh, I think. Sometimes people feel compelled to do that because that's the only way to maybe shake somebody out of their negative situation or adverse situation. So I do like the show because it does give a lot of hope to others out there that are watching it. And the thing about it is, it's really, I think in the long run it's very positive, and I think a lot of people watch a show like this. I may watch it because I think we have a certain infatuation or fascination for how others are living, or what it is I think we see something like that, somebody that's in a very bad compulsive hoarding type situation, and it's almost unfathomable. We almost want to see how bad and dire the situation, or how deplorable the situation actually is. That we're just curious about it, and we wonder if they're actually going to get out of that situation. I mean, you'll see, I guess, especially in the hoarding buried alive episodes, where you'll see things piled up almost to the wall, I believe, in the rooms, and it's just something that most people can't even grasp. I mean, I was astounded when I saw that number, that when it said, quote, compulsive hoarding affects approximately 700,000 to 1.4 million people in the U.S., end quote. It was on PsychCentral.com, and they were actually, I believe, quoting from someone that someone had stated on that blog, on that website. So I didn't realize how big and astronomical that number was. And anyway, people. Well, anyway, as far as my rating for Hoarders, I give it 5 stars out of a possible 5. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.